There's a blessing in the storm. You guys are such rock stars. Oh my goodness. You know, it's like I sit down, I come back, and it's a whole full sanctuary. It's amazing how that works. All right, so today's talk is keep your ruby slippers on, baby. Keep your ruby slippers on. One of the reasons that the books and the movies of The Wizard of Oz are so loved, well, it's because of the rich layers. There's lots of layers of discovery there. And at the culmination of the narrative, what do we find out? All that we are ever searching for, where is it? Home, within us, right? Within us. And it's an epic journey of self-discovery with a feel-good ending. How often have you asked yourself, what am I doing with my life? What's my life all about? Right? And then we go searching all around to try to get the answer. Well, over the next few weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this book by Joey Green, which is called The Zen of Oz, 10 Spiritual Lessons from Over the Rainbow. And so we're going to use that as a guide on our own discovery path. And on that discovery path, this is what the key is. You already possess the attributes you seek most passionately. They're there. You got them already. End of talk. No, okay. If you're a purist, then I'm going to tell you up front that this talk could make you a little nutty. But if you're in the mindset that all religions are of God, you're going to be fine. And the reason that I'm sharing that disclosure with you is because the author has lumped Taoism and Zen together. And he uses it interchangeably. And, you know, when I picked up this book 6 years ago and I worked with it, at that time I didn't really realize the distinctions. And what's really cool is you get to kind of witness your minister in process, doing her thing. And it's really cool because as I've grown, as I continue to dive in to the vastness that is Eastern religions and philosophies, I'm learning and I'm evolving. And it's really cool also that your minister didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because in the past, I would have been like, oh, there's an error, done. No one can relate though, right? I'm the only one that does that. One mistake and you're out the door. One mistake in that relationship, see ya. One mistake from your boss and gotta look for a new job. Oh, it's just me. Okay, it's good to know. So here's the growth, right? I'm calling this growth in that I can look at this and look and still see that there is a strong premise to this story, regardless of the inaccuracies. We can still get pearls of wisdom because why? It's all God. We say it, but are we behaving from that place? It's all God. So I find the title of the book really interesting, The Zen of Oz, and it made me realize if it said the title was The Tao of Oz, would I have purchased the book? Probably not. Would you have purchased the book? What's Tao, right? So clever marketing on his point, and let's face it, we all want to be Zen, don't we? Okay. So here's the goal of this book. Green's goal is to see the heroine, Dorothy, is really on a spiritual journey of awareness, of awakening, of self-realization. And the author compares Dorothy's journey to the philosophical tenets of Taoism and Zen. Now, Taoism is also known as the way of life or the path of life. And the premise of that philosophy is about balance and harmony. Zen philosophy also known as the path of enlightenment, is more in alignment with Buddhism. Both of these religions thrived in China, and researchers suggest that Taoism heavily influenced Zen. But the significant difference of the two faiths is that the intention of Taoism is to be one with nature, while the intention of Zen is to attain enlightenment. So you know, I'm a researcher. I got to give you some foundation here. So let me give you just an overview of both philosophies. Taoism, ancient Chinese philosophy and religion, and it instructs believers on how to exist in harmony with the universe. Taoism believes that animals and humans should live in balance with the Tao. And when we say Tao, what they're talking about is the way of the universe. So whenever you think of Tao, the way of the universe. And it has this belief that we are spiritually immortal. Spiritually immortal. And when the spirit leaves the body, guess what? It goes back and connects with the universe. Now, in Unity, we believe the same thing, do we not? We believe that after death, there's only oneness. Before death, there's oneness. After death, there's oneness. And in our spiritual energy, we are returning to the allness. In Taoism, they see everything as energy. Everything is energy, all living things. And it's important for that energy to be balanced. You've heard the phrase yin yang. It's energy. So they see energy as like kind of matching pairs, hot and cold, up, down, action, inaction, which work together towards a universal whole. And it says that everything is connected and that nothing makes sense by itself. Is that not sounding familiar to you? Because I'm saying, isn't that principle one? I know we talked about it in class today. Doesn't that sound like principle one? Right? That there is no thing that is not of the universe. What does that mean? Everything is of God. All is of God. Principle one. And the sacred text of the Tao is the Tao Te Ching, which is known as The Way and Its Power. And it's a collection of sayings and poetry from 3rd and 4th centuries BCE. The author is believed to be Lao Tzu, but researchers have kind of delved in and they believe that Lao Tzu is a mythical character, that they can't find anything tangible that says that this person ever existed. But they've given authorship to him for cultural and political reasons. Is that any different than the Bible? Right? You read the sacred text. Becca, in their talk last week, mentioned James, the book of James, supposed to be Jesus' brother. Maybe, maybe not, right? And why is that done? It's done to elevate the writing, to give the writing, what they're saying, gravitas. So, to talk about Zen, we need to first talk about Buddhism. Zen arrived in China as a form of Buddhism, and as I mentioned before, it was heavily influenced by Taoism, which existed there. But we'll start with the Buddha, right? And we know that 2,500 years ago, Siddhartha Gautama, what did he do? He questioned. He was a prince in a palace, living a luxurious life, and he saw around him people were suffering. And he questioned, why do people suffer? And what is the cause of suffering? And after he reached enlightenment, he taught several things: the 3 universal truths, the 3 jewels, and the 4 noble truths. The 3 universal truths are anicca. Everything in life is impermanent, always changing. You know, I've been up here saying that now for a little while, right? Okay. So we know everything in life is changed. Nothing is permanent. The second one of the 3 universal truths is dukkha. Because nothing is impermanent, a life based on possessing things or person doesn't make you happy. And then anatta. Some doctrines teach that there is no eternal soul, while others teach a doctrine about finding a greater self, releasing the ego, releasing selfishness. Once again, are you seeing a correlation there? Okay. The 3 jewels that the Buddha taught are the Buddha, one is one of them, and that is that people can become Buddhas. They can reach that level of knowledge and enlightenment, so that's possible. Then the other jewel is Dharma, which is cosmic order. What do we call it? Divine order. Thank you. You're like paying attention. Thank you. Thank you. Helpful. The third jewel is the Sangha, that in the community they uphold the teachings of the Buddha. And then the 4 noble truths are human life has a lot of suffering. The cause of suffering is desire. I want. There is an end to suffering. Desire nothing. And the way to end suffering is to follow the middle path, or the path of liberation, and that's an 8-fold living process. And what's the goal of Buddhism is to achieve enlightenment. But more importantly, releasing the cycle of having to be reborn and dying, reborn and dying, reborn and dying. So, as I mentioned before, when Zen came over to mainland China, it was in the form of the Mahayana. Let me try that again. I had practiced it. Mahayana. Thank you. Got it. The Mahayana Buddhism, right? And around the 5th century is when it came to China by the monk named Bodhidharma. And they share that practice of what Zen Buddhism is, influenced by the Tao, and there you have it. The path of enlightenment that is based on the personal spiritual development and ability to understand the true nature of life. So you can see just in there that there is a mixture of both. The teachings emphasize a pure state of mind that can help in realizing the true and inner nature to oneness. They believe that through meditation, enlightenment can happen. So wherever you are here on the spectrum of Eastern religions or philosophy, I'm saying all are welcome. Because when there's truth, does the religion really matter? No, it doesn't. And we're a spiritual community. And we are looking at lots of different tenets. So here we are. I've set the foundation. Now let's look at the book. In The Zen of Oz, the author writes that the story of the Wizard of Oz, he's looking at it through the Zen lens when he writes this. Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, Zen master. She sets Dorothy on the yellow brick road to spiritual enlightenment. When Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion let go of the conscious yearning and free their minds to function spontaneously and in harmony with the cosmos, what happens? Brains, heart, and courage flow easily and effortlessly. Ultimately, Dorothy attains Satori, the Zen experience of awakening. She finds her true self, her higher consciousness, her ultimate oneness with the cosmos, and her home. That's why we love this story so much. Do you remember the beginning? Right? It's bleak. Kansas. I've lived there. It really is bleak. No, I'm kidding. I've waited my whole life to say that. No. Right? It's in black and white. It just kind of looks sparse. And remember that she's an orphan, and Aunt Em and Uncle Henry took her in. And they're really concerned with the farm. They're in survival mode. Everything is about the chickens and what's going on in the farm and the produce, right? And it seems like if Dorothy doesn't become that farmhand, then she's kind of ignored, left to figure things out on her own, told her imagination is out of hand. And what's Dorothy yearning for? Yearning to be loved, to be heard, to be nurtured. How many of us felt that way in our childhood? Oh, just a couple of you. What about teen life? Come on, people. What about in your teens when the hormones are going crazy and nobody understands you except the emo music? Okay. But Dorothy's deep love and affection flows into Toto. Beautiful. You've seen the story. This is good. Toto, right? She believes Toto is the only one who can love her unconditionally. But yet, she allows Toto to get in some serious trouble with Miss Gulch, right? I've often wondered, sister, put the dog on a leash. Wouldn't that, stop the craziness? I just never got that. Well, Green, the author, suggests that since Dorothy wasn't getting the attention and love that she wanted, perhaps she unconsciously had some negative behavior to bring that focus to her in the object of Toto getting in trouble. Do you have any friends like that in your life? Oh, have we ever been that in our lives? All right, honesty, I love that. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Big hands in the back. Thank you, Bob. Yes. Green also reminds us that there are karmic consequences for all of our actions. He writes, when we choose to take actions that torment others and sow the seeds of unhappiness, the consequence of your karma is your own misery and failure. When you choose to take actions that nourish joy and love, the fruit of your karma is your own fulfillment and happiness. Pretty powerful. So in Dorothy's case, she put Toto's life in jeopardy and created a very frightening situation of losing the one thing that represents love to her. So Dorothy may have been feeling hurt and rejected by her aunt and uncle, yet she could have chosen to view it differently. She could have chosen to look at this as a moment of gratitude that she's been an orphan and they took her in, right? And maybe they're doing the best that they can because they were unprepared to have a child in their life. She could have looked at it from that perspective, which, would have shifted her in a different position. But in this situation, she may have reacted impulsively, festering on thoughts of not belonging, not feeling loved, which caused her to act out unconsciously, pitting Toto against Miss Gulch. So I'm telling you this story. Are you sitting there wondering, so what does this have to do with me? Well, this is really simple. To what principle? Thank you. I heard that. Third principle. And I did not plant him, but okay. Third principle is what we do to co-create. How we're co-creating life. Thoughts held in mind, right? That's how we create. How many times have you reacted to situations based on your own erroneous interpretations? And the thoughts we have about it often don't lead us to respond from our highest self. And then we get those impulsive actions that we take that create these untenable situations. And we're like, why is this happening to me? It's almost like we don't believe the principle that our mind is as powerful as it is as a co-creator, and we just keep cascading through life, incurring consequences. And as Dorothy is struggling to figure out how to get herself and Toto out of this mess, what happens? Cyclone comes, right? And Green sees the cyclone as a physical manifestation of Dorothy's inner struggle for self-awareness. I'm liking this. I could go there. The cyclone then places her in a land called Oz. And in this new dimension of Oz, it gives her the opportunity to become aware and conscious of the choices that she is making. It gives her an opportunity of rebirth. Guess what? We are being called into discernment as well. We are looking at the choices that we are making. Are we making decisions based on fear, insecurity, lack, and separation? Or are we making choices based on love, worthiness, abundance, and oneness with the universe? Every decision we make is an opportunity for us to ask, what could the consequences be? Will the consequences nourish happiness? Or will the consequence create resistance? The Wizard of Oz, the ruby slippers, they represent the inner spark we are each born with. Ruby slippers, inner spark. And that spark we know as our divine nature. We know it as the wisdom of the universe right here, right there, right there, right there, right there, right? Infinite love and power right there. And it makes sense that the slippers are valuable and really important for Dorothy's well-being. And what does Glinda say? Right? Never let those ruby slippers off your feet. All right. Why is she saying that? Right? Green says, she's saying, Dorothy, never give up your passion, your individuality, your uniqueness, your spirit, your soul. She's saying, this is your inner spark. But what's really interesting is that the Wicked Witch of the West, say that 3 times fast, I dare you, and not stutter, really wants those ruby slippers. And you know, I can relate, right? I got my own pair of ruby slippers. But perhaps it's because the Wicked Witch has forgotten her truth, has forgotten that there is the spark within her. And in forgetting that, feels the need to have someone else's slippers to be powerful. Doesn't that mirror some of our own thoughts? When we look at others using their divine spark, their divine nature, and we're like, well, if I could do that, my life would be really good, and I don't know. Yeah, you know those thoughts that we have. And here's the thing, as metaphysicians, I can say that word, when I use the term, I'm saying that we are in the study of being. It's the study about being, the study about reality, the study of God, the study of nature. That's what we're doing here, my friends, each week. And what do we know? What do we know about the spark? What do we know? Not rhetorical. It's in us. It's in us. We each have God within us. And we know that there is only oneness, and our true purpose is uncovered through our own self-awareness, self-love, claiming our light. And it is through right action that that spark is allowed to get bigger and brighter. We also know that any attempt to diminish someone else's inner spark extinguishes our own. We know that. So do you remember at the end of the movie or the book, whichever one you did? I know you all did the movie, so it's okay. The wizard has gotten into his hot air balloon. They're ready to escape back to Kansas. And what happens? The balloon and the wizard takes off and leaves Dorothy stranded, right? And she wants to go home. She's ready to go home. What does Glinda say? Okay, sorry. One more time. What does Glinda say? You've always had the power to go back to Kansas, right? And the scarecrow, frustrated on Dorothy's behalf, goes, Then why didn't you tell her? Why didn't you tell her before? And what does Glenda say? Because she wouldn't have believed me, right? Because we know we have to experience it for ourselves to know it, right? We have to experience it for ourselves. So, why did I tell you this story? Well, it was fun, but it's a favorite. Sure, all of that. But you can learn something from this. Here's a few answers I came up with. No matter what comes your way, hold on to your ruby red slippers. Hold on, right? Treat your inner spark as the valuable treasure it is. It's valuable. And realize all the experiences that you're going through at this point, they're for you. They're for you to discover your purpose. It's for you to figure out how to be in alignment with truth, with spirit, with the universe. So, what if, like Dorothy, you are waking up from a dream state right now, and you're remembering you are magnificent. You are a magnificent expression of God. You know, maybe it's time for you to get your own ruby slippers. That's right. As a reminder of how valuable your spark is. And, you know, if you can't pull off the ruby slippers, I know not everyone can, especially the guys. I just can't see Tim Wright in his ruby slippers. Can you? I don't know. Reggie could probably pull it off. What do you think? You are fabulous. You can make anything look good, baby. Anything. I invite you to use this affirmation. I refuse to relinquish my inner spark. I claim my divine purpose. That's yours this week, all right? And then next week, we're going to be looking down the yellow brick road. We're going to be talking about that and the choices made on the yellow brick road. But I want you to think of this. Does the direction matter? What if all roads lead to self-actualization? What? Woman's crazy.